3, 2, 1, action. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Half the Race Gone, and once more we are here from the Nürburgring. It is of course the Grand Prix layout, and it is the split 2 race of the third round of the season. We have the AM drivers in the LMP cars, we have the pro drivers in the GTs. And as a special feature, as a first at least on the channel today, we are gonna have a special guest joining us later on during the stream to talk a bit about the series here, so do stay tuned for that later on. Personally, I am really excited. Forgot to mention, as always, hasn't changed since last time out, my name is DK and I will be taking you through the action here, sending my warmest regards to Trial666, who could not be here either for the race or for this commentary today. Anyways, once more, leading out the AM LMP field, it is Nilsemann 2002, the German, in front of Mr. Off Apple, with newcomer Mika from Holland, the Dutchman Mika 8102K, or just Mika, and also incidentally the first name of my all-time favorite racing driver, Mika Häkkinen, or at least one of them, but he really was a flying Finn. Let's see if this Dutchman is also a flying Dutchman. And in P4 we have Ninja Karma. And in the Pro GT class, the Pro GT split, we have CJ taking pole position in front of reigning champion Stevie, with Armored Core lining out the podium in that second of the Beatles. Joe of the Fire championship leader will be in P4 in front of myself, with Tetsu Kobura also newly joining in the Toyota FT1 Vision Gran Turismo car. So it'll be interesting to see how that fares along. Let's go to see the LMP field. They are slowly coming down towards the final chicane here on the back straight. And we do expect a race where, at least in the GT class, the Volkswagen Beetles will be stronger here than they have been on some of the other tracks, or the other 2 tracks that we have visited so far this season, because they do suffer on the top speed, and this is a track that is not too top speedy. And as we have the LMP cars coming around the last corner, it is Nilsemann's decision when to go full throttle now. He has Off Apple to his left, and here they go, coming down towards turn 1. Nilsemann seeming to park the others on the outside. Coming into turn 1, seem to have gone through cleanly so far. As we take a look at a close battle here, Mika the newcomer taking a cautious approach here through his first turns as an LES driver. Ninja Karma coming out of that MP3, now putting the pressure onto Off Apple, seemingly not getting the best of exits from that corner there. Very difficult technical complex there, but no space to overtake into the sweeper on the left hand. Oh, says Apple, gives him a bit of space to be right about there at the move. And we are looking at the the GT start. As per tradition on this channel, we just about missed the start because of the action going in. And this is CJ holding on to the lead. Stevie still in second, and not really too much happening here down towards the fast, or not really fast, but faster second complex of the track. And this is the part where you would normally have the smooth voice of Trial666 joining you along. Will be strongly looking forward to having him back on the channel at some point. CJ still just holding off. He is on the medium tires. Stevie though is on the racing super softs. So it will be a quest for Stevie to get past CJ as quickly as possible, because, well, if he doesn't get past in due time, all of a sudden he will find that his tire advantage has gone. Mika coming into the pits now, and that is to repair some engine damage. He must have had some kind of, what a terrible start for the Dutchman to his first Grand Prix. And it looks like he had some kind of contact with Ninja Karma, who is also suffering damage, albeit of some lighter kind, with right rear suspension and rear aero damage as well. Now cutting back to the battle for the lead in the GT class, because things are really heating up, as Armored Core also joins in for the fun, tries to get the exit on Stevie. Those two cars are really close, with the Mazdas just trying to tag along. Tetsu also close on the Kobura still, in the Kobura. Tetsu also close in the Toyota around the back. Sometimes you really do get some third-nisms. Can we call it that? And of course, as usual, so nice to see already some of you in chat. Please do join us with all your thoughts, your feedback, your commentaries around the race. And do know that we will be trying to cover as much of the action as possible. As we see already now, just taking a look at the minimap in the top right corner of the screen, we can see already now there is quite a split happening in the LMP field. Maybe after that crash and or incident between Mika and Ninja Karma. So we'll be keeping our focus on the GT action for now, as we have Stevie having taken the lead. And that leaves CJ in second position now, with teammate Armored Core right on his tail. And it'll be interesting to see whether the two will perform as close racing as he and Joe of the Fire did a week ago in the LMP cars when they were 1 and 2. But the reigning champion is back on top, Stevie, and he's already dragging out a little bit of a gap down to CJ, which you would also expect given the tire advantage that he has. And also really nice to see Mika and Ninja discussing their incident in a gentlemanly manner in the chat. And if you just, I don't have a webcam. If I had, you'd see me with 2 thumbs up right now, guys. Nice to see. So coming out upon lap 4, and we have Tetsu having made the pass on me, leaving me at the bottom of the GT field at this point. And now Tetsu comes up thinking about having a look up the inside of Joe of the Fire's car, but in the end deeming that it was too far back after all. Stevie just extending his lead ever so slightly. Armored Core still very close to the back of CJ, and Armored Core is also on the racing soft, so that might explain a little bit of the speed advantage that we're seeing. And that certainly doesn't look like Team Orders Racing from the Vert team, as we see the number 12 car of Armored Core really trying to put on the pressure on CJ, but the Swift Greek is having none of it, and he is keeping his cool. And CJ, you see him really getting the absolute max out of those medium tires as he has a squirmy moment on the outside there of that turn, but manages still to keep the speed coming out of the corner. There are 2 wheels on the grass, and this is only gonna help Stevie in escaping out in front. So in the LMP class we have once again Nilsman leading, and it is a sight that we have gotten used to seeing when the AM drivers are in the LMP cars. And you would also have to consider whether it would be in its place after all at some point during the season to put Nilsman up amongst the pro drivers. He certainly does seem to have the pace to be able to take care of himself. In the away now in P2 as he started as well, so nice going from him here. Ninja Karma having that damage fixed and also having gotten nicely away from that. And Mika, who's also seemingly having settled into a rhythm on those racing softs. Let's see if he can make amends for his earlier mistake. and maybe he'll be able to make up some of those positions later in the race, while Stevie's advantage is just growing and growing. But then again, you would expect it to at this point. Armored Core now having taken P2 from CJ, so once more we do miss the action when it happens. Just goes to show that it is really hard being there all the time, as CJ has another big moment there. And Nilse asks, yeah, who says that he wants to be in the pro class for season 5? Well, Nilse, if the stewards decide that you are going in the pro class, then I think you are going in the pro class. But anyways, and it's not to be harsh, but just to say that if you have the level, you shouldn't be sandbagging in the AM class. So still Armored Core with CJ close behind. Those two are followed by Joe of the Fire, having the largest amount of ballast, and it really shows on how that Master handles, especially when we just took a look at the two Beetles before. The Master, also on the racing medium tires, looks a bit more like a ship when going through those corners. You can really see that extra weight hamper the car of Joe of the Fire, as he is also still kind of have Tetsu Kubura for company, and myself, Dirt DK, kind of falling off the pace at the back of the field. Not really a strong track of mine here, the Nürburgring GT layout, and I think it has shown, or it will also be showing throughout this race. So still Stevie managing to keep those tires in working condition still, as we see his last lap time at least still very competitive with a 1:56 dead. Take a look at Armored Core. He's done exactly the same for the last lap on his softs, but didn't have the pace, probably because he was stuck behind CJ, battling it out with him. CJ, we would expect CJ to be able to keep that pace he is holding now for quite a much longer, so it'll be really interesting to see once again, as we have the cars on different strategies. The soft and super soft starters, we would expect them to be on a 3-stop strategy, while the medium starters should be expected to run a 2-stop strategy. Here, as we take a look at the Master of Joe of the Fire, championship leader, he's down in P4 in class. He'll hope to make up a bit of positions here, but it is certainly a difficult position to be in with all that ballast. Haven't taken the wins. At both, well, I was about to say both Maggiore and Monza. That's obviously not true. He took the win at Monza, didn't manage to do so at Maggiore, where Stevie came back to winning ways. Nilsemann still just keeping his wits about him as he makes his way up through the first round of traffic. Always interesting to see how this pans out. But really at this point, the drivers, most of them at least, have gotten quite used to this multi-class racing, and the number of incidents in turn has greatly been reduced. We see Nilsemann patiently weaving his way through the GT field, doing strongly, we'd say so here, off Apple, making his way around, but at this point quite a bit of way back in the diesel non-hybrid Audi. But interesting to see, aside from Gugas running the Toyota TSO50, newcomer Mika is the only driver running a hybrid car in the in the LMP class, in the AM LMP class, excuse me. So that'll be really interesting to see just how he fares along today here. So 15 minutes of the race gone. That is quarter of the race gone. Ninja Karma in P3, Mika still down in P4, having gotten some fresh softs upon that pit stop and doing quite well also to manage those tires. As we saw, Nilsemann just making his way around Stevie, with CJ now having... Well, I was just about to say he was giving Armored Core some company. Now he's more than keeping Armored Core for company, because he just passed him and he's back up into second position. He will begin his chase of Stevie, and he will get right down to business at this point. No doubt that the mediums will have the pace advantage on the worn super softs. On this, Stevie has pulled off one of his magic moves and been able to save his tires in a way that basically nobody else has really been able to, at least not while putting out such a crazy pace at the same time. So we definitely see the tire wear there on Armored Core's car. It is going to be a swallow for him here. We have Joe of the Fire now really getting close to that Volkswagen in front. It'll be interesting to see if he will be able to catch up. At this point we would also expect him to have somewhat of a tire advantage, even though he has that extra ballast in his car. And the driver's still being blue flagged for the oncoming LMP traffic. You can hear that rotary master on its way. It's the car of Ninja Karma as Stevie goes into the pits. Armored Core's into the pits. It'll be really interesting to see where they come out. See if we can catch a glimpse there. Stevie getting some fresh super softs on. And sure not drop that far back. Stevie's out and he is in... He's in P4 in class. As we have Mika coming in, and yet again with damage, so he must have had some kind of problem once more. And looking at his lap times, he had been able to touch on a very good pace, but the nerves certainly can play a part, and especially when it's your debut race. And very nice job on those liveries also. I saw a picture that was uploaded earlier of this car and the 911, and it looked absolutely stunning, so really nice job on those. So now we have CJ in the lead. He is getting passed by Ninja Karma. Joe of the Fire now up into second position, but mind you, those two has yet to pit, and Tetsu Kubura now has the reigning champion Stevie for company. And I think it's gonna be a battle that's hardly even gonna be worth fighting for Tetsu, because he is on very worn soft. Stevie is on very fresh super softs. And as we say that, Tetsu has quite a moment there, and Stevie makes light work of that. As we have Off Apple also coming into the pits around same time as Ninja Karma. And strangely enough, the hybrid rotary, no, not hybrid, I'm sorry, but the rotary engine master has been better on his fuel than the diesel Audis. Not something you'd entirely expect from that situation, I think. Joe of the Fire now having taken the lead as CJ did pit now. He is probably also gonna pit at the end of this lap. He has Stevie for company, and if he can slow down Stevie a little bit, that might just hamper him. Let's see Stevie on the outside here. He just powers through on those super soft tires. That is a ballsy move by the Brit on his compatriot, now pushing Joe of the Fire into second. The lead driver of the Master La Vista team there getting yeah, not really having a single chance in that situation. It was just right around the outside there, with Joe of the Fire going to the max capability of the medium tires of that Master at the moment. So Stevie having the race that he would have hoped for, making those overtakes in the shortest possible amount of time and having the clear track to just open up the gap behind him to in turn be able to make the three-stop strategy work for him, as Nilsemann now is also coming into the pits on very worn front tires. Seems like that pit stop at this moment is really justified. Nilsemann does, however, have somewhat of an advantage. Fabel not that far away. This might... No, I thought it was going to be a little bit closer. Ninja Karma, though, still close to off Apple, so we still might have a battle for P2 in the LMP class. And Mika also seemingly able to put his Porsche 919 back into contention if he can keep his wits about him here, as we have Joe of the Fire coming into the pits alongside teammate Durden. And I'd say we should go watch Joe's pit stop. Probably a bit more interesting there. The numbers 27 cars out, and he is out right behind Tetsu Kubura. And that might just prove to be a little bit of a nuisance for Joe of the Fire, who's now stuck behind that Toyota of Tetsu. Toyota who's on brand fresh soft tires. So it might also make for a hard overtake for Joe of the Fire. CJ is in P3 in class, but is on fresh medium still, with armored cores, softs already showing some wear, and, well, equally so the super softs of Stevie. But as we've seen before, he is just a master of that art that is tire management. And at this point it also seems like the race is beginning to settle just a little bit, as we have the battle for what is effectively P4 in the GT class. And perhaps this is about the time that we should bring in our special guest for today. I hear that he is connected. It is the organizer of our lovely series here. It is the boss of the Nukeshot Motorsports team. I think you can guess already that his name is Off Apple. Off Apple, welcome to Have the Race Gone. It is truly a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Durden. Pleasure to be here.
So, Abel, I'd like to first of all just ask you about the history of the series, because of course some of these contestants running, they have been running here right since the first season, since season 1. Nilsemann, CJ, and a couple of others, but many have come along the way. So maybe you'd like to just quickly explain a bit about the history of the series and what inspired you to create it in the first place.
Okay, well, in the first place, it actually started out with regular online lobby sessions known as the 25 Minutes of Le Mans, where we would host 650 PP lobby races for GT and LMP category cars, and the races would last 25 minutes, as you might imagine. So we gathered a lot of attention through that, and eventually we started forming a bit of a community. The idea came up to create an actual series where we visit loads of different tracks, and so it just took off from there, really.
All right. Well, and what about your own expectations and also your own your own expectations to this season, not as much maybe as an organizer, but as a racer.
Well, from the racing side of things, I've established a B team for this season with the PlayStation by Nukeshot Motorsport Squad. Wake and right, who's the other driver?
It's Bear. It's Y Bear.
That's it, Y Bear. Sorry, he's won a race already for me this season. You'd think I'd know these things. But yeah, of course, we've got them in the B team car, myself and Sparks in the A team car, as you could say, running the Z4.
Yeah.
Expectations are mixed. We're just here to, I'm at least just here to enjoy the racing for what it is. Maybe get the occasional podium. Just try not to be lapped is the main goal for me.
Yeah, definitely. Pro field this season, I certainly find myself at times having the same ambition for my races as well.
Yeah, well, if you're finding it difficult enough, I might put you in AM Split next season.
No, that won't be necessary. That won't be necessary at all. I can tell you that much. No, anyways. Okay. But, and just last off, as a race and series organizer, where do you see the Nukeshot Endurance Series heading for the future?
Well, at the moment, I'm just focusing on running Season 4 and refining the formula we've had for the last 3 seasons. It seems to have gone very, very well. We've had a lot of feedback from people in the series, of course, and it's really developed into something that I'm genuinely quite proud of, and probably end up putting it on my CV or something. We'll have to see.
Well, that's I'm really glad to hear. That's really great to hear. That's what I wanted to say. And best of luck, both on Racing Ways and on behalf of all the rest of us, also on your organizing ways. What I can say is that it's been a true pleasure having you on, our first guest here on Have the Race Gone. I think you've been splendid. It's been a great pleasure to have Off Apple on, so please give him a hand in chat. Applause.
Thank you very much. I'll be leaving you now.
And now rejoining the racing while we were gone on this interview, we have had Joe of the Fire passing Tetsu Kabura and moving back up into P4 in the GT class. Stevie still in the lead. No changes either in the LMP class at the moment. Armored Core is holding on to P2 here. He is still not that far in front of CJ, and you would have to think that he will be pitting in soon. Looks like an intelligent decision by, excuse me right there, it looks like an intelligent decision by the Vert team to try and run 2 different compounds for the race, and perhaps that way try to match some of the other drivers, or at least teams who before have also seemed to have success of actually running 2 different strategies for the race. Also because it has a tendency to give a spread to your drivers, so they don't end up like you have seen, or like we have seen, Crazy John, CJ and Armored Core early in this race having a bit of a battle, because ideally as teammates you actually want them to have clean air throughout the race, so they can race at their optimal pace. So saying that, taking a look at Stevie, race leader, GT class, with just about half the race gone. CJ still in P3, and Joe of the Fire still not out of contention. This track doesn't really seem to suit the Mazdas, maybe, considering the strength we have seen these cars have on some of the faster circuits. But it certainly doesn't mean that Joe of the Fire is out of contention. The quick Brit, he certainly is a quick fella. Off Apple in second position, as we have Nilseman once more weaving his way through traffic and also getting a little bit sketchy there between turns well, I guess that turns 2 and 3, or 3 and 4. It's 3 and 4, and it is a very, very, very difficult technical part. And it is a part of a track that feels sort of like that once you know how to get it right, it really stops becoming difficult altogether. But it can be absolutely horrible to try to string those corners together if you're just a tiny bit unsure of where to put your car. So still Nilsemann leading off Apple, but with a healthy advantage. And Ninja Karma now having caught up to the Brit that we just had in the box before for the interview. Now let's see how he will do on track. At the moment, it seems to be Apple with the slight tire advantage. Both cars are on the soft compound as Armored Core is going into the pits. And we'll take a look at that to see where he gets out. What will his track position be? And Joe of the Fire will certainly be hoping to get his way past. Certainly this round of stops will also be a longer one because there is quite a bit more fueling needed to be done there. Armored Core is back, and he is back in 10th position right now. So at the back of affairs currently, but with a pit stop in advance on most of the other drivers. See, not that much space to make up to myself. Tetsu also within reach. As we see CJ and Joe of the Fire on very, very similar strategies. With Stevie, Armored Core and Tetsu pretty much also opting for the same strategies, but it also looks like, at least looks like at the moment, that Stevie is the one who is pulling out the advantage. He certainly has a healthy gap on CJ. How much will CJ be able to close up on him before Stevie pits? That is the question. Will those super softs hit the cliff really? And did Ninja just pit? He certainly did. We see the lap time for the last lap is 2 minutes and 6, and he is with some fuel and fresh tires as Stevie also pits in. As we see Ninja now making his way up to Mika here, up upon the back straight. The Mazda is now on the slipstream. Get tries to defend. Oh, he really certainly, that was the Rosberg squeeze by the Dutch newcomer, but giving him space enough to stay on track. So strong move there actually defensively. Now Ninja Karma though might have the advantage coming down the main straight. Certainly he's put in a fast lap at this one with a 42.8. Now, oh, as he just gets a little bit stingy and gets a flying exit there and just goes around the hybrid Porsche from a non-hybrid car. That is really not what you expect to see, of course, with a massive tire advantage there in the favor of Ninja Karma. Strong driving there from the French monster. Let's see if we can avoid mixing up Karma and Man today. So Nilse with a strong advantage down to off Apple, who is in turn is coming up to some traffic now as he is about to hit the battle for the lead in the GT class. We have CJ still not having had his second pit stop, and we have Stevie just having had his second pit stop, and Stevie is really close to CJ right now. And you will see that advantage becoming smaller and smaller and smaller as we go inside on board with Stevie. really trying to hug the car along the apex of that corner, coming onto that back straight where the Aston can really stretch its V12 legs. But I'm thinking that the Vert team must be running a minimum downforce setup on that Beetle to get that kind of top speed. And there is contact! There is contact! And I don't know what happened there. Maybe just the fact that Stevie could take that apex so much faster on those super softs than CJ could on those worn mediums. And he just went right into the bumper. And that's certainly not something we're used to see from Stevie. One of the absolutely most skilled drivers of the field here, making contact with another one of the absolutely most skilled drivers of the field. Not exactly what we were wanting to see for such a battle. How is the state of CJ's car? It has it has slightly worse damage, I think. Also having taken a hit to the rear right suspension alongside the rear diffuser, of course. Steve getting off the better of those two, and of course also with a massive advantage in tires, which is also what shows here. Is probably not only the damage. Yeah, good one, Joe there says Stevie is confirmed as a dirty rammer. And no, I think that might be with a bit of a wink in his eye. A good Joe of the Fire, having put himself up into P3 in class with Armored Core. I'm afraid, having retired from the race. No, he's still in, but he is battling, having caught up to me from behind, and they're coming with the move up the inside there. And I also think that he is gonna make that one stick, as we have CJ coming into the pits with LMP traffic. This is a lot of things happening at the same time. Armored Core tries to go wide and defend. Oh, as I just get the rear wheel onto the grass there. Goes very wide, and that opens the door for CJ. And that was a bit more lucky for him than what luck has followed him for the most part of the season. And maybe that is quite just that for once in his life he seems to be a little bit more lucky, as I said, than earlier this season, where he really seemed to have some bad luck, as that was a very, very big moment with that Volkswagen going extremely sideways coming out of turn 3, which is of course still turn 4. It was earlier, probably still is, probably hasn't changed since then. Even Stevie goes a bit wide there, and he might be contemplating pitting in to get that damage fixed. And it might also mean a set of fresh super softs. Might as well get the maximum out of such a pit stop. Anything else would indeed, I guess, be a little bit foolish, as we have Apple into the pit now. Not much fuel left in his car. Ninja Karma goes up into P2. He seems to be running for quite some time more, but having also been into the pit only 6-7 laps ago. Nilseman still just powering along. And Apple, is he going to be coming out close to Mika? That is what I'm thinking right now. They certainly are close to 2. And we are going to have a Porsche Audi battle for P3 in the LMP class. Stevie now leading, or still leading, but now in front of Joe of the Fire. But Joe of the Fire also looking like his tires are close to needing a pit stop. Armored Core, his tires are certainly not looking much better. CJ there is on very fresh rubber, so he is trying to perform some kind of undercut on Joe. And judging by the distance between the two of them, it might just work. So now we have Nilsemann pitting in, and those tires are absolutely scorched, so you would expect it that way. 20 minutes ago he is completing the last scheduled stop of his two-stop strategy, and everything just seems to have been rolling along for Nilsemann today. And he certainly seems to be on a level that no one in his split can really match at the moment. Brings back memories of some of the races from Season 1, where Nilsemann was a very strong contender. Ninja Karma, his teammate now in P2. Strong work by the Frenchman, with Mika having overtaken Apple. Nilsen noting in chat that he forgot to refuel. Taking a look at his fuel gauge, you don't say. That will certainly be a waste of time. It just goes to show the dominance when you can make such a mistake and actually still probably have the time to come out still in front of the teammate of his. Looking like he's suffering a bit of lag issues at this moment. Still the battle for P3 is on, with Mika and off Apple. But at this moment it seems to be the Dutchman pulling away in the Porsche 919. A car that he will find demands a quite particular driving style, but it can also certainly reward those who knows how to handle the machine. Stevie still looking strong, still hasn't pitted, so he will probably carry his damage throughout the stint. And it doesn't really look like he's losing much more than maybe tops half a second per lap. It looks like it is something he is able to do so, considering that he has a big advantage down to CJ at this moment. Joe of the Fire on those fresh tires, still in P3 in front of Tetsu and myself. As we have LMP traffic once more, Nilsemann coming up to lap the GT cars, as he has done very patiently. Once more we see just that patience. Nilsemann very experienced when it comes to this multi-class racing, so he'll just know exactly how to take care of that traffic, and he does so in very, very fine style right there. With his teammates still in P2, Mika holding out P3 off Apple, having lost a bit more ground there to the Dutchman in P4. Still, let's see if it'll be an interesting battle along the way here, along for the podium spots in the GT class, but right now it does seem, well, if not settled, then at least settling, because Joe of the Fire has a bit of way and a bit of space to make up to CJ, who's in turn has a big gap up to Stevie, leading the race in the GT class, as he's done for most of the race, apart from, well, 2 or 3 laps, I suppose, having been overtaken due to pit stops and due to starting in second place on the grid. And mind you, you can go to Stevie's YouTube profile as well. He did a live stream of the race, so the entire race is also available from his perspective. And on that video, of course, you'll be so lucky that you also find the qualifying session. So Stevie A712 on YouTube for that video. You should certainly go and check him out, as he is certainly a driver worth following. A very, very, very quick one of its kind. And just through this shot, that Mazda just looked like a toy car in front of the Atenza, and just realized that it was two Mazdas in the shot. So but the LM55 Vision GT LMP car just looked so small compared to that Group 3 Atenza in the rears. Still following Joe of the Fire. Taking a look now with CJ. Oh, as he goes very wide there. Nice save up out there. That AstroTurf certainly gets slippy when you go that far wide there. CJ once more. If CJ did get style points for drifting, or if he was racing in Japan, he would surely have millions of fans, because his style indeed is very flamboyant. Oh, and as it turns out, actually Nilseman 2002 also has his live stream of the race available on his profile. Sorry for not mentioning that, Nils, but that was simply because I was not aware that you actually had the stream. So now that I know, I will certainly, of course, mention it another time. It's always interesting to be able to see the entire race from one driver, should that driver be your particular favorite driver. And Nilseman certainly with a strong showing once more, as he keeps stringing his way through the LMP field, and once more through that same shot. The Mazda basically just, the LM55 just basically makes any of the Group 3 cars look absolutely huge. I wonder what it would be like if we actually had the BMW M8 GTE in the game, because that would be a ridiculous sight indeed. So Nilseman coming into the pit with 1% of his fuel left. Ninja Karma, he is too far back to do anything about his teammate, and he is also on the verge of a pit stop himself, and that might open the door for Mika, because there is only 12.5 minutes racing left, excuse me, and with the fuel that he has left, his tires should still have some laps in him. He might be in for a much shorter final pit stop than Ninja Karma. Off-Apple in turn has done a decent job really of saving his tires, so that might also play out to his advantage over the last lap. We will be sure to keep an eye on how that develops in the LMP class. So with that, now Mika is in P2. We've had Off-Apple and then Ninja Karma coming out just behind the diesel Audi, and now he has some rotary power keeping him for company. Surely this will be an interesting one to see. And mind you that Ninja Karma is really losing time while he is behind Off-Apple. Ideally he would have free track in front of him. So positions 2, 3 and 4 are still very much up for grabs, but they won't be for Off-Apple if he keeps making that kind of mistakes. Perhaps flashing his light in frustration that he put 2 tires in the dirt right there. Certainly not what he would have wanted. And just taking a look at the GT drivers, still it's Stevie holding a comfortable advantage, now also having his last pit stop taken care of. It is CJ in second position, still with Joe of the Fire in third, lining out the GT podium with Tetsu and myself in fourth and fifth right now. an unusually low number of competitors for, well, any NES race basically. I don't remember seeing that many races with this few contestants, and it's probably just an unfortunate chain of, or not chain of events, that would be perhaps a bit much to say, but just an unfortunate turnout for the race. Probably more than one driver locked on some other commitments. It certainly makes for some better racing when more drivers are present. As we take a look at Mika, will be interesting to see if Ninja Karma will be able to close the gap, because Mika's tires are certainly deteriorating at this point, and with 10 minutes of racing left, it could turn out to be quite the job for him, keeping that Mazda behind him. And was that actually Tetsu? Well, basically it looked like, because I looked away to check out the stream or the chat for a second, and then I saw Tetsu. Basically it looked like Tetsu overtaking the Porsche. Obviously it was not, but Ninja Karma certainly took advantage of Mika losing some time there, and he's right upon the bumper of that hybrid Porsche right now, as there is a little bit of contact through turn 1. Mika with the inside line, but Ninja Karma intelligently deploying the cutback there after applying the pressure and making the move with ease, really showing how much you can do with a fresher set of tires, and instantly pulling out what, yeah, that looks like a second already. And Mika, well, he was going to be toast anyways on those tires. Certainly no chance against someone on fresh rubber. Off Apple holding on in P4. Maybe hoping to be able to take advantage of any battling going out in front, but or going on in front of him. But that battle certainly lasted for a lot shorter than Off Apple would have wanted it to. And it might not have been contact there. It might just have been really, really close through turn 1. And anyways, no damage to any of the cars as far as I saw. Nope. So I think as far as that, we are pretty okay. So Ninja Karma, after his last pit stop, having battled his way through the LMP field to reclaim the second spot that has been his for most of the race. As we see, CJ is pitting now. CJ is pitting now. And I wonder if it's just to put on a little bit of fuel, and while he's here, just as well get some fresh rubber on. Probably also going for super softs to try and hammer in the fastest lap time and to grab that single point there. And he gets out in front, just about in front of Joe of the Fire, keeping the inside line there. And Joe really knowing that, well, it's going to be hard passing on those worn mediums anyway. Worn mediums it is, as these two have a bit of company. I think it's Off Apple now, having made his way up. It is Off Apple, but he is definitely losing a lot of time here trying to pass this traffic, but really a difficult track for the traffic indeed. And you can just be so unlucky with on which point you encounter this traffic on the track, and really end up losing quite a lot of time, as we have quite a lot of bro love going on in chat between Ninja and Nilsaman, the 1-2 drivers, the Race Like Airplane team. It's great to see that you are having a great time together. So Stevie also pitting in here, probably just to be certain that his fresh super softs will be able to hammer him home that fastest lap time. He wants that extra point. He feels like he needs it in the battle against Joe of the Fire, and he also knew that he would easily have the time to pit since CJ also just made this pit stop. So for him it was pretty much just to keep up with the level of lap times that CJ could hammer in here through the last couple of laps. So Joe of the Fire is looking like he's gonna bring home that heavily ballasted Mazda into P3. Well done of him. CJ was, well, I would expect, after having set pole position time and such, I would expect CJ to have been hoping for a little bit more than having to be content with second position. I would have a really hard time imagining that he is. But nevertheless, it does look like what is waiting for the swift Greek. Nilseman now making his final pit stop. That might be for a couple of super softs and an attempt at setting the fastest lap. And he is a long way in front of Ninja Karma, so he will have nothing to worry about on that front. Mika is also in turn, well, enough of a way back, and especially with those front tires, he is not gonna pose much of a threat anymore. But well done to Mika for being able to grab, or for at least so far into the race, for holding on to a podium position. Let's see if he can keep it until the checkered flag. There is just over 3 minutes of racing left. That makes for 2 laps for the LMPs. That makes for, well, I guess also 2 more laps for, yeah, also 2 more laps for the GT drivers. So we should probably go check out the lap times of the GT cars at this moment. We have Stevie setting a 1:53.8 apparently, but could this be his outlap? I think it was the outlap. Apparently there from CJ also that 52.7, that is an outlap. He did the 54.2, but that is also certainly a quick one. Oh, as we hear some kind of issue there with some car. I wonder what that was. Still Stevie. And this is maybe the lap we're going to be looking at for Stevie for his attempt to put in the fastest lap of the race. He has the 1:54.3 from before, but he also has to contend with CJ having put in that 1:54.2, and the 1:53.8 here is his outlap after all, and certainly isn't going to be this lap for Stevie with a 1:54.5. CJ, let's see what he gets. He comes around the last turn there for a 1:53.5, and that looks like the fastest lap of the race so far. And Stevie will have a single lap left to beat that, to best that, but strong lap from CJ. And Tetsu with a 1:55.6 on his last lap. Nilseman, well, is he gonna do a single lap more? Yeah, he certainly is, because there is still half a minute to go. So it's gonna be one more lap for the LMPs, at least for Nilse, as I think he's gonna be the only car that makes it onto that lap number 34 for them. Ooh, as Ninja Karma nearly overcooks it, it looked like, coming into that chicane. Mika and P3. As we have reached the hour marker, which means the drivers will be on their final laps. Ninja Karma has crossed the finish line. That will be in second position in the LMP class. Mika here is coming home to take third. We still have Nilsemann on his lap. Fabul is going to be the next driver crossing the line here as he makes the final turn in his Audi. As he absolutely smashes his car here, Stevie takes the win and really does a nice victory burnout there. CJ taking second place in the LMP, and there's a huge coming together right about on the line there. And that is gonna be a very expensive way for these drivers to end their race. Joe of the Fire is gonna take P3. He's coming home for it right there. Not too far in front of Tetsu, who's going to have company by LMP winner Nilsemann. So really strong race once more for Nilse. And in last position it was myself. So with that race gone, I think we have seen yet another really should I say strategic battle here. It turned out that once more the soft tires did have the edge, but there was also some, like we saw with some of the drivers that had more ballast. For example, Joe, he wasn't really able to conserve his tires in a way that would have enabled him to go for those super soft tires, really, because he just saw a drop off in both tire wear and lap times as a result of that much too quickly. But nevertheless, great racing once more here from the NES. And Joe telling me to clear replay space. I do that on a weekly basis, Joe. I'm down to almost having to delete stuff from season 3. I like having it, it's fun. Anyways, what I was gonna say before is big congratulations to our two winners, Nilsemann and Stevie. And thank you to all of the racers for joining in along. I hope to see you all along for next race. Next weekend we're gonna be racing at Dragon Trail. And also do tag along for the next round of the TSR M3 WTC here on Half the Race Gone. We'll be racing it on Wednesday. And we might just change our scheduling a bit to bring you this already on Thursday. But do check out our, and this is actually a very good way for me to introduce our drumroll Twitter account, twitter.com/halfrace. Go in and follow us there and you will catch all updates about this channel. So it has been my utmost pleasure having you along for the ride, especially thanks to you guys in chat. It's been great having you along as well, of course. And until next time, my name is DirtyK. Please take care, have a good time, and bye bye.